meet new companies, and companies go through our acquisition and investigation process. Can you tell us something about how the process works, and how closely do you look at companies? Because I think there is a little bit of this myth of the demo day, the elevator pitch. Everybody should be able to convince an investor in 3 minutes. Otherwise, their opportunity is lost. But at the same time, being an early stage investor, there could be a good founder with a good ideas who's not very good at pitching. And so, how do you approach this? How do you find and sift and?
Right. When we do the intake through the studio, we're averaging up to two applications a day, and that just to go through those, just to keep up with evaluating those applications using my minimal criteria that we talked about. That's a job. But what we try to do is come up with a short list of people to look at that meet the criteria we talked about. Does the team look okay on paper? Does the idea hold water? Is it somewhat modable? And is it sufficiently differentiated that you could that it's going to be noticed? And those are the kind of the things that we're looking for. And then lastly, specific for us is it going to be delivered on a digital platform? Because if we're not going to add value if there's no digital platform involved. I think that's where we really come into our own. So that's kind of the evaluation process. Once we have that, we narrow it down. We usually do a phone conversation with the founder or the founders if there are more than one, and we tend to, from that phone conversation, say, does this stack up? Do we want to meet, bring them in and meet the rest of the team? Because nobody gets through here without meeting everybody in the team, and we try to do everything with a unanimous, thumbs up.
So when you're thinking about investing in a startup, is it the idea or the team that's most important?
Both. Sorry. You got to have both. And, a great idea with the wrong team won't work. A good team can usually, you can usually find an idea so, if you look at it that way, I guess the team is probably going to outweigh the idea in the long run, because a good team can, come up with a new idea, basically. A idea can't come up with a new team. So I think, they're both important. When you're evaluating a startup, I don't think we would really look at anything that didn't have both.
So, have there been situations where you got engaged with, or you were evaluating a company, and you liked the idea, but you decided not to work with it because you didn't have enough confidence with the team?
Absolutely. I mean, and to be quite honest, if I look at the contra of that, if you had a good team and they came in with a half-baked idea, you might see them again, but you'd probably go away and tell them to do a little work on their idea.
What is the ideal team? I mean, we see companies with single founders, with many founders, and I mean, what do you look for in an ideal team?
I'm still looking for that one. No, it's difficult. I mean, if you kind of set your parameters, this is what I want in a team, you're never going to invest in any companies, because you're never going to get what you want. People are different, and people that come together, they come together for serendipitous reasons, and you can't really control that. I think probably the most difficult journey is the sole founder's journey. We see a lot of sole founders because, the idea generally gets generated out of an idea, out of somebody's mind who, is kind of a workaholic, and that's how you end up with sole founders. It's a difficult road because you have nobody to really bounce off of, and when things get difficult, you have nobody to support you, and it's a really, really difficult road. I mean, as an investor, I would always rather have a team if we could. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you can't force a team either. If they're, you can't say go find somebody because it's like go find a partner to marry. You can't force that type of thing. But, ideally, if you could, if you would have a domain expert in the domain that the startup will be operating in, and probably secondly, somebody to balance that either operationally or technically or something like that. It's nice to have that balance and, and to have some different expertise. Right. I mean, what startups do is they look out at the market, and a good startup is looking for an opportunity because the world is always shifting, and the environment in which we operate, what people like, the tastes change and things like that. What a startup is trying to do is say, right, what we want, we see this change happening, and we think we can grab this opportunity and actually make a business out of it. To me, that's pretty exciting because what you're looking for is, changes that can give you the opportunity to actually do something.
So have you got any tips for startups that are meeting investors for the first time?
Probably my biggest tip to somebody running a startup is really nail down your story before you go burn a few bridges. I guess that's probably the best way I can say it. I mean, my advice would be try to actually give yourself a little runway before you actually have to go pitch for real money. i.e., raise a little friends and family, or do enough work that you can actually get your story really straight before you go out and start seeing investors that you don't know. Okay? It's critical because you're not going to get that many chances, and if you make a hash of it, you're probably not going to get very far. You do a good job with one, the network is there. It's like, I found one, and investors usually invest in a herd. So if you can get the head one to say yes, then the rest usually come. So, getting that story right is incredibly important. And whether you work with an incubator or a startup studio like us, that has those benefits.
So, Greg, what's the investment that you're most proud of?
That's a difficult one. I'm not even sure that's fair. I mean, all the stuff we're doing in the UK, I love them all. I love what they're doing. They all have had their wins and their failures. They're all evolving, but I still believe in them all. And if I had to pick one, I think it's only fair that one that's sort of run its entire life cycle. And and if I go back to kind of late 90s, a friend of mine and his wife were running a early digital platform business, and this is in California. They were just at the point of it was working, but they had no money, and they were just about ready to pull the plug. And it's like, all right, we need to do this, 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 and this. Let's throw in some money. And that one actually, took off after that. And, I think there were a few key things that happened. I think the investment helped their mind. With the investment, they were able to go out and find somebody that actually was the connector that plugged that business in to so many things. It got them acquired. The company that acquired them was in the process of doing their IPO, and they needed to put more businesses in. So that was one of the IPOs. So yeah, I'm proud of that because the opportunity, it was there. It needed to be done a little differently, and we basically took it from a pretty steep dive to leveled off into a really nice flight again. So yeah, that's fun. Hopefully, we've got a few of our startups here that are going to have the same journey. These things are never clear, and they're never none of them are easy.